Good evening. Good to see you all again. My name's Elliot, just in case. I'm from nsquared.
I'm Jackie. I'm also from nsquared.
And nsquared is just around the corner at King Street there, so not too far away. Before we get too into it, I thought we'd go around and see who we've got here tonight. Sorry for the delay. We're just making sure sometimes people roll in late, so we'd like to give a little bit of buffer time for getting to it. So, a nice small group today, so it's going to be exciting. So yeah, starting at the front here, Alistair, good to see you again.
Yeah, I'm Alistair. I've been working in Unity for the past maybe 8, 9 something years, and working in VR for maybe 4 years.
I'm Lenny going. Been working in Unity, but I've just kind of picked it up, taking a break. My background's in software engineering, so I also work in that kind of stream. Did a bit of IPS website work, so that's what is here.
My name is Jill. I'm a retired architect. I've got an interest in 3D and virtual reality and all that sort of thing. I did some postgraduate study at Sydney University. I got a Master of Design and Science Computing, but that's going way back in the 90s. So I'm coming here as an interest too.
Oh, excellent. Okay. So we've got a broad array of skills and interests, which is very cool. So we'll start tonight, like we usually do, or this afternoon I should say, with the news. That we like to talk about what's been going on in the world of MR, but VR and AR more generally too. So this one we thought was kind of interesting with the BBC have launched their sort of VR app. So this allows you to sort of sit in your virtual area, watch this screen, but like you think, oh, is that, why can't I just do that with my television? I was actually reading, it's really interesting. You can change the point of view you're at with this, so you can go behind the goalkeeper, you can be on the sideline. You've got a lot of control about what you're actually seeing and where you're sort of sitting. And all sorts of different, I think you can bring up live stats, and so it sort of really brings more to that experience if you're following the football, particularly because it's underway in Russia at the moment. So that was kind of interesting. Other interesting bits and pieces from Steam, the different statistics. VR is on the rise there, so in the bottom corner here we've had a bit of gain. So mixed reality has only got 5.8%, but that's in a short sort of amount of time, the last 2 years, so not even a year and a half. So building market, and from reading about it, it's interesting because they find they're getting more of a market share just because of the price has been significantly lower to, say, the Vive and the Oculus. But they're also becoming more competitive with it, with the release of the Go and that sort of thing. Some other interesting statistics here were just like what people are using with their computers, so what kind of processor that they're using. One of these I found really interesting was this one. The number of CPUs per computer. So 4 CPUs is this nice pink area, followed by 2/1. But I was actually kind of surprised how large this section was. So a lot of people have sort of this pink area, and that's what I expect to see. But yeah, there's still a large percentage of people down there. So anyway. Mercedes-Benz using the HoloLens for their manufacturing. So they're sort of showing how their systems come together. I've got a video here from Volvo in a second, which is kind of along the same line, which is quite interesting. But yeah, it's just a lot of car manufacturers are getting behind it to sort of show what they're doing and how they're putting their things together. And I think it allows them to show off a lot more of their technical bits and pieces in a more user-friendly way, rather than just giving you a stack of statistics in their charts and that sort of thing. So yeah, this is from Volkswagen. They're using Vive technology. Hop off to YouTube.
Welcome to our virtual learning workshop. The following training will instruct you on how to handle the ride-along platform. What works like a video game is actually a pilot project in the Logistics Learning Workshop, developed by Group IT together with Brad and Clark Logistics. With the help of virtual reality glasses, employees are taught how to handle the ride-along platform. The glasses enable logistics employee Tobias Ruprecht to enter the virtual Volkswagen logistics site. Due controls allow him to grasp objects and move them around. I feel like I'm on the assembly line itself, on the carrier platform. I see everything right in front of me and it looks like I can grasp everything. While the training session guides Tobias through the entire process, a trainer from the learning workshop monitors it. Tobias can move around on a 4x4 meter surface. Just like on a wheeled platform, he moves vehicle components and sorts them. This idea came from gaming. The whole principle is inspired by video games. We use game engines and game development software to design these trainings. People really enjoy doing it. The feedback we keep getting is that it's lots of fun and that test persons are eager to repeat the trainings to continuously improve their performance. The users have to accustom themselves to the artificial environment at first, but then it feels just like reality. You simply try to get to grips with what you see. For example, you bend over a box and reach into it even though it isn't actually there. The Digital Image Factory, a service factory unit, helped create the virtual reality environment. But thanks to virtual training, there's no need to hold the assembly lines, and users can get to know the new processes without any pressure. VR gives us the chance to address the topic of complex processes economically for the first time. We can integrate IT applications, and in particular, we can simulate a realistic work environment for our employees in VR to provide them with optimal training. Mobile trainings are also possible. This opens up many areas of application besides company logistics, like assembly and planning. Thanks to trainings using virtual reality glasses, employees are good to go the very first time they perform their new task in true reality. Congratulations! You completed the scenario successfully.
So yeah, that's kind of a area that we're very interested in at nsquared with virtual reality training, because it's very scalable and you can essentially train someone to do something from wherever they are. You don't need to actually take them physically into that work environment so that to understand what they would need to do. And it's very you could move it into any sort of other area as well. So we have one of our own, which is putting a PC together, putting a graphics card, replacing a graphics card. So taking some piece of knowledge that might be very specific and helping people engage with that and understand how they might do that is very interesting, I think. So we can move back over. Yeah. So this is another use of it within sports. So they're getting more and more of these, a lot more interest where sports are trying to get people in the seat at these different venues, because sometimes a lot of sports are quite expensive in the US. I know there's been some talk about boxing and that kind of thing too. You know, you could potentially sit virtually in a very expensive, nice close-up seat, you and 10,000 other people in the exact same seat, seeing the same view, but also being able to engage with the crowd around you in that sort of space with this kind of technology. So it's getting, I think, more and more widespread. They're also bringing down the devices that you can have this on. So, you know, Google Cardboard is quite low end for this, which is great. So more accessible. Adobe Premiere with Project Aero has recently been released. It goes for too long. I don't know if we'll watch the whole thing. Not a minute, that's good.
I got a feeling like a tidal flow. I know what I am in.
very interesting. I think it's really moving that sort of design pipeline to become more interactive and more hands-on. Anyone use this by any chance? Have a look. You got some interest with architecture, do you think, in that kind of thing?
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. Seems very very useful and be able to very much visualize. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm hoping, yeah, more of this sort of comes out. The HoloLens does a lot of cool stuff like this as well. But Adobe's really cool with all its different suites, so handy to move between them. Yeah, this is the Volvo one I was sort of talking about. This is the same idea that Mercedes-Benz have been looking at, but I found this was a good video, this was more interesting. So,
Volvo is really a human-centric company. That's the core focus of everything we've done in terms of the products we develop, but also the way we interact with the customers. All people know that we stand for safety, but Volvo is so much more. HoloLens helps us to push the envelope of innovation for our customers.
The HoloLens is a device that you put on your head, and it doesn't intrude in any of the things you do, but it also extends the realities around you.
You can do something you could never do before. You can see the soul of the car. You can strip the body out and stay with the skeleton, and you can play around with it.
The HoloLens can allow our customers to see features, colors, options. So rather than working on the computer, seeing things, you can be part of the experience.
No one understands how car sensors actually works today. Through the HoloLens, you can see how the car perceives you. And then you give me as a human being the vantage point of a sensor. It helps to build a much better trust in this type of systems.
For example, you see a car coming in front of you. The car has features that could aid in that situation. We have a lot of features that we don't necessarily want you to experience it all, but it's part of our proposition. You're buying into the safest car brand in the world.
One of the great things that was said to us by Volvo when we started this was that Volvo loves technology, but only if it makes people's lives simpler. Microsoft HoloLens lets people take imagination and make it real, much more efficiently and in a much more collaborative manner.
HoloLens will not only help us in the car buying process at the dealership, it can evolve into many areas. We think there are many alternative applications of this tool in the future, and Volvo clearly has an aspiration to break out of the pack.
It's cool. It's way cool.
Any thoughts about that kind of thing? Like, do you think we'll end up seeing more of that in each business? You'll walk into a business and get to see their products in this kind of, you might put on the HoloLens or, yeah, hopefully
in the retail environment.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll definitely see it in manufacturing.
Yes.
Maintenance. But yeah, perhaps also retail.
Yeah. It's funny you say that, because I read something really interesting recently about that within the office environment we benefit from the advances in computing quite a lot. Whereas a lot of the warehousing and the physical work hasn't so much. So, they're still using lower tech, where something like the HoloLens can help with making jobs more streamlined or help out, because even something as simple as you're cataloging work, like instead of having to do it by hand, you potentially have a HoloLens scan whatever it's looking at and work that out itself.
Yeah.
Because I think that the more we can do like that would be really beneficial for everyone. Because as I said, a lot of the office environment benefits from that. We have fast computers to do all the different statistics and that for different parts. So I think that would be more development to go into, and so seeing that manufacturing showing different things off like that is really interesting to me. I think more of that will come in the future. And Sure, this one on. Not sure if that's enough. We'll just move on. It's fine. Otherwise, there's been a whole bunch of Microsoft Azure updates, which is interesting in MR, particularly because leveraging the cloud is getting more and more important, and for devices like HoloLens, getting the work done elsewhere is very important for that due to its processing. Make this available, by the way, if you want to. And nsquared Space Plane is installed as our HoloLens application. Okay, so from 0 to 1, creating from mixed reality. So I'll start tonight with what skills do you need to have to start creating a mixed reality application. So I've tried to boil it down into things you particularly have to do in Unity to put something together. There are a few others, and I ended up leaving in logic and problem solving because I thought that was very sort of broad across a whole bunch of different areas, because you can bring that into modeling, you can bring that into audio. I also had another one that I kind of left out, was sort of like having a good idea with your project and having that structured in a way that will make your life easier while you're putting the different things together. But what we're trying to sort of get to here is that, say you're coming to create a mixed reality application and you are an audio engineer, what do I need to put the rest of it together? And then, like, very much you could put something together without having any of these skills as well, I think, from either learning or outsourcing freely, very much so. So I'll sort of go through these now. So starting with logic and problem solving. So these are the things I sort of thought were important. So thinking in 3D always. So Unity, well, with mixed reality, has to be 3D. But even in a 2D environment, if you're looking at layers and that sort of thing, that's still going to have that third dimension of interactivity. So when you're making decisions and putting something together, how is something going to look? And I find iterating through that is incredibly important. So whether you've just put a cube in the scene, testing that out on the device straight away is really handy, because you get an idea of your dimensions. What is that doing in that space, and then where can I work from that? So I think, I don't know, I always find that helps me to always think that, okay, what's this going to look like in 3D? Because you lose that sometimes on your monitor, you know, 2D area. Yeah. Solve problems or roadblocks creatively. So makes you sort of break down all these different things. So this kind of goes hand in hand with the next piece. In that, like, many systems can be broken down into smaller, more consumable pieces, I think. And like, I suppose a good thing with object-oriented programming is that you have all these little bits and pieces that go together, and I think Unity really enhances that with its script idea of components. So, you know, you drop something on, and that works in its own right with a whole bunch of other things that all come together. So when you're trying to solve a problem, whether it's in code or whether it's in modeling, you know, making it simple, but also creativity can really help you get across those roadblocks all the time, I think. I know, like, I've been overthinking some of my mechanics when I've been putting them together, and a simpler approach has been much more effective and a lot cheaper in terms, especially with processing with a virtual reality. So, and of course, in terms of outsourcing this is probably one of the harder ones to outsource, but I think just asking other people their opinion on, so you're trying to tackle something and a hard issue, and that can go for anything, but asking other people their perspective, because that's very, very handy. Otherwise, the internet is great, and people at meetups is also a great thing place to meet people and talk to them about your potential issues. I know I've asked people randomly, you know, I'm trying to solve this right now, and they'll say something completely out of the blue, and it just really come together because they've got a different perspective of what I've had, particularly if you've got your hands deep in it. Sometimes you need a fresh set of eyes. In terms of coding and programming, so if you have this skill, you know, you'll be going in with C# and JavaScript for Unity, and essentially this is where you get all your sort of behavior and interaction and that sort of stuff. So this is a rotating cube, but that's essentially just one line of script there, which is breaks it right down to make it very simple looking. Unity is doing a whole bunch to make that happen, but this is sort of shows the power of Unity in that you can create quite complex systems and behaviors just by very little code. But this can stretch on for huge amounts, and as to how you leverage Unity is another thing. So, so it's worth, I think, even if you're not coming in as a programmer per se, it's worth trying to learn a little bit about the code. Unity's got some fantastic tutorials online which help. nsquared, we can help you learn that as well. But it's always handy, even if you just know some basics. What's this update thing? Like learning these things really handy, because when you're talking to someone that might be putting your project together or helping you with the code, you'll know what they're saying when they say, oh, this is where I'm going to be putting this piece of code, or this is where this needs to run. If you're then outsourcing to, say, the internet, where, oh, I need to find out how to do a rotation, people are going to tell you, that having an idea what they mean when they're talking about that is very, very handy. As I was saying, with components, scripting is very much dealt like that with Unity. Is that sort of your
experience I've done. I mean, yeah, like the I think C# is definitely very worth your time learning. Even if there's a lot of Unity stuff I've done to support graphic designers, and over time they build a bit more knowledge, and it becomes useful for them to just understand little bits of code, so that they're they're not always asking for. So for instance, your example down there has this.transform.rotate 0, 10, 0. Instead of going to someone constantly learning what that command actually means and being like, oh, I can change the angle there, and then I can create a parameter so I can change the angle in the inspector. So yeah, definitely C# is worth it.
Yeah, I think it's a good got a good learning curve. I think there's a lot depending on how far you go. But I think you can get in reasonably quickly, especially with Unity, and get it to things like this, and then keep going if you find it more interesting and want to learn more code. So,
is it one or the other, or both? C#, JavaScript. Is it using both? Sort of
it's both, but you can write a script either in C# or their version of JavaScript. Their version of JavaScript is slightly different from ordinary JavaScript, which makes it a bit of an odd one that JavaScript developers can't just come in immediately and understand what's going on. But it's also not quite as good. C# itself has better features in the language for organising code. So whilst they do exactly the same thing, this.transform.rotate command, you can use it in JavaScript, you can use it in C#. C# for long-term usage and for bigger pieces of code is way better for organisation. Yeah, it's not even, I mean, you could say it's more powerful. It's more powerful for organisation. It does the same thing. The JavaScript's still powerful. You can still rotate something, do everything you want. It just becomes less organised.
But it's easy too, if you're coming from a JavaScript background, C#'s I think a reasonably easy step. They're very kind of similar.
There's an online website where you can actually copy and paste your JavaScript and it converts it to C#. So you start to see exactly what happens. There's not a lot of difference between.
I think I read somewhere that they're phasing out the JavaScript arm in Unity. So they used to have JavaScript, C# and they had Boo as well. So they cut away with Boo, and then they're slowly removing JavaScript and they want to stick to C#.
That's interesting to know. I know they're very much pushing towards the editor with the IL2 CPP being the main.
That new compiler, we've been using that. So that's quite.
Yeah, I actually think they want to focus particularly on that because it leverages the engine more.
There's a lot of advantages of it, especially security. Just that you've gone down to C++ instead of C#, it can just be completely reverse compiled.
Yeah, so that's very interesting. There's a lot to it, and in terms of tools and doing code yourself, Visual Studio or Mono Develop both work. Actually, the Visual Studio community is free as well. I was going to say Mono Develops the free one, but they're both free really, so you can access them and use them as you like. And in terms of outsourcing, as I said before, the internet, but Unity's got huge, great documentation. There's a lot of that they put up there, and even tutorials. They cover heaps of stuff, which is amazing. You go thinking, oh, I'm going to have to find something, and they've got a tutorial on it. It's a nice kind of thing, like, oh, I need that. Otherwise, the asset store is great. Lots of people put different things up there. Like, I know if you need something very quickly, that's probably a great spot to look. Otherwise, Stack Overflow, learning the code itself, and documents I always find really handy, particularly refining, making my code better. So they've got some great ideas, and they show lots of different examples of the same kind of code, which is awesome. So that's in terms of coding. So lots to learn, but possible to learn, and C#, JavaScript for the time being. And yeah, definitely possible to outsource that. Moved on to 3D modeling here, and I don't know if one second. Yeah, animation. I have these as separate slides for 3D modeling and animation, but Jackie's going to cover that in a minute. So I'm kind of skimming over it a little bit, but Unity's very open to file formats. They handle a whole bunch of different kinds. They're very good with animations and mapping. Like, you can do animations within Unity itself in a very easy to use user interface that they've got together. But these kind of things, like if you can't model, I can't model very well, so I'm lucky I've got Jackie. But otherwise, you can actually go to things like Paint 3D. They've got this 3D library, free, download an asset, import it, and you can put that in. There's that. I got earlier. It was actually mapped with nicer textures, but I just made it nice and simple, just 2 colours. And I've got it still on that rotation, just a little bit faster. So you can put something together very quickly, even if you don't have this skill per se. But it's a great one to learn, I think, too. And I know it's helped me learn more about modelling, so I can talk to Jackie about things. I can say, oh, look, I need sort of this or whatever else, and hopefully speak more of her language than I talk about. But yeah, so you can do your animations in Unity, which is awesome. Paint 3D can export FBX. They can actually also export GLB, which is a more recent file format, which I think a lot of things are moving across to because it's an open source, whereas FBX is actually Autodesk. So I think that'll end up being the standard eventually, but it is reasonably nice after you get used to it. In terms of outsourcing, internet, Unity Asset Store, so many assets on there for free. You can buy some as well, quite cheap a lot of the time, and you can get things very detailed or less detailed depending on what you're looking for. nsquared's a website, it does the same thing, and yeah, as I said, the Paint 3D library. If you're stepping in from audio, you'd probably be happy to see that Unity is very open with its file formats that it accepts, and that it has a built-in audio mixer that is very extensive the more you go into it. Gives you a lot of control over what you can do within there, and I've seen people leverage this amazingly, like mixing and bringing their sounds up and down depending on what they're doing in the scene, and it's a very powerful thing, audio, in that you can have very little going on with interaction and that sort of thing, but audio experience really brings to life a scene. It's amazing. So that's an exciting thing. If you're less gifted in audio like myself, and you still want to leverage these things, you can create your own little bits and pieces, which is cool. Audacity is a great, friendly user interface for editing audio. I don't have a picture there, but it's open source, it's free. And this VFXR is this one in the corner. Can help you make little sound effects, which I actually find really handy a lot of the time. So it's mostly pointed at video games, but I've pulled all sorts of different clicks and noises that sound more friendly to more professional environments as well. So it's randomized, and you can change it, or not just randomized, it's got a whole bunch of different things. But otherwise, the Unity Asset Store is also a great spot. Otherwise, freesound.org. And texture creation. So another area where Unity allows you to bring in quite a lot of different kinds of file formats, very handy. And they give you a lot of control. And I know with the newest version of Unity, they've got the sort of the shader creation thing that they've got in there now, which can help you put together your materials. But that you have control to bring in things like, your albedos, of course, but your normal, your height, your occlusion, your emissions mapping is very powerful, and you can make very complex materials in there. And it has support, I think, up until DX11, so you've also got your sort of tessellation mapping as well. If you want to create your own textures, paint, regular paint, not 3D, it's pretty good, depending on what you're trying to do. Otherwise, Google, I find Google's really good. Go on there, search for a non-paid image, and a lot of the time I can find a tiled image that will wrap quite nicely and tessellate quite nicely, and can really make your scene look more real, which is very important when you're working with mixed reality and virtual reality. But otherwise, the Unity asset store is better use. When you're stepping into mixed reality, I think it's an important thing to work out what you want to do. It's one of these areas which obviously has the HoloLens or the immersive headset, with the immersive headset being more of a virtual environment and HoloLens kind of being more augmented. They don't like that word being used, augmented, because it is a mixed reality environment where you're interacting, not just overlaying. But essentially, if you're looking to put something together where you can see the rest of the environment around you, the HoloLens is going to be your choice. But so it kind of really matters if from the start you should know what you're sort of going to be doing, because you don't want to get down the line and realise, oh, that doesn't actually work. So in terms of the immersive headset, so you might have a virtual environment that you've got in mind. So you're going to be using the motion controllers mostly to interact. So in this example here, someone's holding this screwdriver and they're able to interact with the environment around them themselves. You have complete control in that you know everything that's going to be in that set. So there's no surprises. It essentially should work as you put it together, because well, nothing's going to change while you're in there. You might need to work out some floor or height differences depending on who's using it. But with inside-out tracking now, that's getting a lot better, and it usually works it out for you, which is great. But you can use things like voice control here, which is also good for HoloLens. I like mentioning that because I don't think it's leveraged enough. You see a lot of the hand work, but you should be able to talk to your application and do things a lot simpler, I think. Yeah, sorry. With the HoloLens, sort of more augmented. So this is Space Planner. So everything here is virtual, just in case you didn't realise. This is real. This guy's not. It's a different environment in that you're not going to know what's there when you have your application running through the HoloLens, because it does use the spatial mapping, and when you've got it running, you can't you don't know what the floor is going to be like. You don't know what the chairs and stuff are going to be like around that person if they're using it. And given it's not tethered, you can't walk around in a HoloLens application. Not that you can't do that in a VR environment, but you still got more control with the sensing. So it's something to keep in mind that if you're looking to put together like a furniture application or maybe architecture, you'd be thinking about how am I going to know when the HoloLens gets in here? How am I going to know where the floor is? What's going to happen when I place that in a certain spot? Do the whole holograms themselves interact with each other? So can I place this virtual couch on top of this virtual table, or can I place a virtual something on top of a real world table? And does the HoloLens know what that is? And so there's a whole bunch of different technology there which you can leverage. So finding out table spaces and that sort of thing is actually very possible. Not always accurate, so I don't always tell it, oh, definitely find me a table, because it might find any flat space and think, yeah, that's good enough. But it's reasonably good a lot of the time, but you just have to keep that in mind when you're putting it together. Otherwise, it makes the interactions with people around you a little bit easier than virtual reality, because you can actually see people and you can still talk to them. I do find you start talking to someone, you feel the need to take it off or look them in the eye. It's interesting. And so gestures for input for that. So you don't need the motion controllers, and I'd say even with the future of VR, I'd say in the next couple of years, the motion controller is going to hopefully decline, and we'll see just hands because we've already got, you know, why should we have anything else? So I think that would be very cool if the more we can understand and see hands. We've got 10 digits, so might as well try to use as much as we already have. And then in terms of what you need to start with building something with like how powerful your computer needs to be, this side is essentially the immersive headset stuff. So if you're, just a quick thing with the HoloLens, as long as you can run Unity and Visual Studio, you're pretty okay for the HoloLens. So it actually accepts, with operating systems, it accepts from about Vista up to 10, but I'll put up to 10 there because it needs to be in 10 to go into the HoloLens. So yeah, just for that. So there's no surprises, but yeah, Windows 10, a lot of people have that now, which is good. It's becoming more standardized. Otherwise, reasonably standard things, the CPU, I think that's a 2006 specification for the CPU, so it's not too bad. A lot of people already have that when they buy a new computer. And DirectX 10 is obviously the older version, so a lot of computers are coming with 11 now. But it's a bit steeper with the immersive headset. So this is from Microsoft's site, and it is a bit higher. And then this is actually just their minimum spec for using the immersive headset and the Cliff House and the environment to actually just use the immersive headset. So I actually had initially an issue with the USB 3.0 Type A. It needs to have a lot of power coming through it. My computer actually didn't have a powerful enough power supply to also supply the headset, so I actually had to change mine initially. But otherwise, I think a lot of this people already have on board. The GPUs are kind of a bit steep sometimes for people, 960, 1050. And yeah, so worth keeping these in mind, I guess. If you get
so that's better than Oculus, though, isn't it?
Yes, it's still lower. Yeah, the Oculus is much higher. I think Oculus demands the 1070 and above for GPU. Is that right?
Yeah, I knew it was the 970 for desktop, because I had a laptop with 970M.
Oh wow, okay.
And it didn't support like 970M or something.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Like, you needed 970 desktop. I'm running with 1060 NVIDIA at the moment, and that's reasonably fast. Okay. So I think there are variants of 1050 NVIDIA that it will support, but it's got to be like the right one. Yeah. Because 1060 was not the very minimum, if I remember. But
there's been some big jumps there too. I know, like the 960 was a big jump from 10 or something. Can't remember, but there was a big jump there.
I only actually researched this. Like I had laptops right up until that point.
Oh wow.
And then my laptop couldn't support an Oculus, so I was like, oh. It's like, and no, you can't upgrade the graphics card, so yeah, it's like, right, desktop time.
Yeah. Harder too, because I think a lot of computers are coming up with less ports for things, and even the HDMI and stuff. Like a lot of them are the Mini, so I'm not entirely certain what sort of whether that's still a possibility between the Mini and then trying to get through to get 60 Hz. I'm not sure, but. And I know mixed reality headset, this is for development, by the way. If you're running an application with the specs are a lot lower up, which is good. So if you can still go onto the store and run off a less powerful laptop or desktop, which is good. But in terms of developing, because of the Unity editors, obviously processing the scene and its game window at the same time. Kind of,
okay. Yeah, because it's not even like using the same system. They just they're basically VNCing. They're just mirroring this display.
Oh yeah.
To display in there. It's like we found, like when you do video, once you do low-level video work, you find that actually they're using completely different display systems.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And so what you see in your headset is not what you get in the real world.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
it's interesting. It's always worth building out your app sometimes because you're like, oh, it's actually better than I thought. But I suppose it's a good step that you're under harder. it's it's a bit harder.
It's
in
being
the editor.
pushed on performance wise because you want to
want it as good as you can possibly get it, really. So
yeah, you want a frame rate that is going to because with all of these, like the frame rate is that goal target, and so getting something that works smoothly at 90 frames per second or 60 on a mobile device is it's tough going, and so having the lower end, developing on the lower end and developing an environment where it's more difficult performance wise is probably actually going to get you a win. I'm deliberately working on a 1060 NVIDIA rather than buying like the best 1080, like just because I don't want. I want a graphics card that everyone else is using.
Yeah, that's true. I know it's funny you hear about even industry. I can't remember, there was a game that came out which they've been working on these huge powerful computers the entire way through development, and they released it and realised, no one's computer is powerful. There's 1% of the population can actually play it. So they actually went through a production cycle too. So I think they had to pull back and we need to bring this way down. It was reasonably recent, but it's just it's a
surprising
good reminder though.
Recently, but like the frame rate. If you're going to develop and you intend to publish it on a store, you're going to need to look at frame rate.
Yeah, make sure it's way up there. Even your worst scenes should be way up there. And I'll pass over to Jackie. Sorry.
So, when you're creating assets, 3D assets for Unity, there's a ton of things you can make it in, free, paid, educational. So personally, I use Maya and Cinema 4D. Cinema 4D was my native program, and then I learned Maya, and life changed. It was really, really good. It's really good for modeling. It's very good for reducing polys and cleaning up meshes and things like that you need to worry about for getting your models into Unity. So free ones, Clara.io, which I have no experience with. They don't have educational or paid versions. Same as Blender. Blender's quite good. It's not an intuitive kind of interface, so it will take you a little while to learn, but it's completely free, and you can make some really good stuff in there. I've seen some really good work come out of that. It feels very professional. It's just a little bit harder to use, but definitely possible. Paint 3D, obviously, as you know, comes with Windows device. It's really, really easy to use. It's very cool. Moment of inspiration, one I also haven't had much experience with. It's paid, but I believe there's it's quite cheap. And then you've got your bigger programs like Maya, 3ds Max, Cinema 4D, and Rhino. They're all paid, but they do come with educational licenses. Model specifications. So the lower the poly, the better. It's going to slow down your engine a lot if you put something really high poly into Unity. But the good thing is, as you can see here, you've got a high poly and a low poly version. There's tons of ways you can reduce that. And you can also do things like bake normal maps. Now what that is say you see this really detailed model, you can actually take the little bumps and the little dents and everything from here and apply that to this one, so it physically looks the same, but it's not, and it is a lot more friendly for Unity. We always use FBX to put into Unity, so all those programs I just showed you then are capable of producing FBX. There's a ton more, but they're just the biggest and best ones for that format. Definitely learn to UV unwrap and texture. This is so important. Like, I learned the hard way with this one as well. It's very important to, you can just go in Unity and drop textures on here, but it's not going to look as good. Like this might be connected to here and they might share the same texture, so you want to go in and UV unwrap that. So basically what that is you're unfolding a piece of paper and you're saying that my nose should be connected to my cheek and stuff like that. It's really handy to get really accurate kind of textures on your models. And always test your textures in your 3D software before you give them over to Unity. I know there's been a ton of times I haven't. I've given it to Elliot, it's just been like, what was the point of that?
Just quickly, while we're here, sorry. With polys, these sort of, what do you call it, polygons, the more of them in there, the harder it is for like a program like Unity to run with them. So with virtual reality having such a high benchmark for performance, it unfortunately doesn't like a whole lot of massive amount of detail. So we tend to try to get a lower polygon count. So as you can see, instead of say this 4 square here, it's just a single, which is then broken down into 2 triangles. But it does make a huge difference, and particularly because a lot of the time, not everything in your scene needs to be hugely detailed. So you can definitely afford to have some higher poly ones in there. So say you've got a moving character, fair enough, you might want some of that, especially facial and that kind of stuff, to be a bit higher polygon count. But the things in the background of that, particularly with a lot of other applications you see, they'll reduce everything in the background whilst that's happening, so that it's a bit easier on the software to run at the same time. So.
No, that's a bit.
So it's just like a resolution.
Kind of, yeah.
Resolution.
Yeah. So the more it has to calculate, the worse it's going to be. But yeah, it does make a big impact, particularly because even some simple applications have, it might have 100 models in there, but if they're all calculating at the same time at the refresh rate, you very quickly see things decline. So and it's amazing how much bump mapping, and even though you do lose some of the detail, the texture mapping, unwrapping and that sort of thing really help. You can't tell the difference a lot of the time, even though it's half the detail in the model itself. So I'll let Jackie show you.
So I thought I'd walk you guys through my kind of process. So we'll come up with an idea and we'll be like, okay, let's put these objects into a scene, we'll work together on that. The good thing about Maya is you can use reference images. This is so like powerful. You can put an image in whatever plane or view you're looking at and actually model around it, which is really cool. This is in wireframe mode, it doesn't look that meshy normally. But yeah, so photo references. 3D modeling is basically just like, I like to explain it like Play-Doh. So if you wanted to make, I don't know, a lamp, how would you make it? You would model this and this. So it is intuitive once you get to know the program. But yeah, photo references are definitely good. So I use Maya, for the polygons, models. I have a look at the mesh, so this is probably unnecessary. These you can clean up a lot. The real kind of detailed parts like that, Maya has an option to press clean up and it kind of combines all the mesh, gets it nice looking good, and then you can actually reduce it. So it does a calculation where it will recognize these really detailed parts that you don't need. It will actually get rid of those polys, which is really good. And then, I didn't put it in there, but I'll do my texturing, my UV mapping, make sure it looks good in Maya, and then I'll export it to FBX with the materials that I created. You can also, with the bump maps as well, I forgot to mention, you can do them in a program called Crazy Bump, which is free. Basically, you just put an image or a map in there, and then you can make it a bump, you can make it a normal, which is really cool. You can chuck it on Maya, you can chuck it in Unity. And then I'll export it. I'll get my maps in a separate folder. I'll send that all to Unity, and then we go from there. If you don't want to do it yourself, there's plenty of people that will do it. So you've got sites like Freelancer, Fiverr, Upwork. They're people that are putting their skills online for cheap. There's a lot of students, there's a lot of people doing it on the side just for experience. You've even got Gumtree and Facebook as well. A lot of local universities as well have a kind of talent pool for people. I went to Billy Blue, I know they do it. UTS Design might do it. And there's also LinkedIn. You can just search Digital Designer Sydney or 3D Designer Sydney, and lots of results will come up for that. So where to learn? So we have a mixed reality guide specifically for all of this, developing and designing for mixed reality. Takes you everything from everything. Yeah. So the thing about designing and developing for mixed reality is there's a lot of information online, but there's not specifics. Like I struggled very hard in finding out what I needed for the design side of mixed reality and what works and what doesn't. But this is a very specific guide. You can purchase it off Amazon.com. And we've also got our mixed reality fundamentals course, which will be a hands-on training course at nsquared around the corner. And you'll also get a headset, you'll get one-on-one training. It's really just the works for this exact thing. So, demo time. So as I mentioned, Paint 3D, you can make assets quite easily. So I'm going to show you, this is Paint 3D, for anyone that hasn't seen it. So your menu's up here, you've got brushes, 2D shapes, 3D shapes, stickers, text, effects, canvas, 3D library. The main things you need to worry about is brushes and 3D shapes for mixed reality. So I'll show you a very simple kind of emoji. So if you think of an emoji, you think, okay, circles, long circles, smiley face. So we'll start off with, so you select it, put it down. And although just a circle, it's already a three-dimensional shape, and you can actually maneuver around. There you go, you can see the three-dimensional space that it's in. Twist it around, but obviously it's a sphere, so it's going to look the same. You want to make some eyes. You have a lot of control over kind of manipulating your shapes and stretching them out, making them into different shapes. You've got your color panel over here. So these can be the eyes. And if I drag them onto our model, just get it out this one a little bit. Just get it shocked out. So if we want to have a look around at it, so you can, depending on the shape you've got selected, obviously. So you've got an option over here to group as well. So that's just kind of combining the mesh. Now you can do all sorts of things like this. You can draw and you can extrude. With these options here, draw lines, smiley faces, anything you like. You can also, another thing you can do is build off a sketch. So if you have a sketch, you can put it in Paint or do a sketch in Paint and then like extrude or build shapes around that. Once you're done, it's really just as simple as going to Menu, Save As, 3D Model. And here it will give you the options. So you've got GLB, which is what Elliot was mentioning earlier, 3MF or FBX. So in this case, I would choose FBX. Save that. And then, yeah, so you can see 3D object, FBX, throw it into Unity and it will just, yeah, so that's just an example of how simple it can be if you just want a really basic kind of model in your scene. You don't have to have any special skills for it. I mean, there's a lot of tools online, tutorials as well, if you really want to learn about 3D modeling or 3D paint or anything like that.
So just quickly, with Paint 3D, how good is it when you need to do things accurately? So let's say I wanted to create a model park bench, and you know, just a few bits, but
yeah,
like I need to make sure that everything's like, everything's like exactly the same distance apart. So, you know, normally like I'd have some sort of grid. Yeah,
I'd say it's definitely possible. It's just not as user friendly as something like Maya or any of those programs, because obviously you have more control over how, like, down to the millimeter, the centimeter, how big you want something,
right,
how far you want them distributed. I'm not that experienced in Paint 3D to have done something very complex in it.
Okay.
But you can definitely, I've seen some complex things in it, so just take a bit of time to get around the interface, I guess.
Just got a quick tutorial here. I really like let's go back over to
Where's the...
oh, this one. find this really handy because I can't model. So sometimes I'm putting a scene together and I want to put the basics in there just so that I have an idea what's going to be in there. Sometimes I'll just use a cube, depending. But this has opened up my world because it's kind of like, now this is the cuff bench. So we're going to be guessing a bit.
Thank you.
Which one? Ready view. I don't know. You kind of do have a reasonable amount of control. Like, I can't model at all, but like, I found I was able to navigate this enough to add things to it, or not advanced, but enough that, you know, if I just want this bench, I'll import that just as I just did then, export it straight away, and it will just work as is in Unity, and I can just sit it in the scene. And in terms of development time, so much quicker, because, I don't know, it's helpful to have reasonably accurate things in your scene, especially when you're putting them together. And there are so many models on Paint 3D just ready to be put in, which is amazing, for free. So yeah, just as a side note, you might find it interesting if you're at home.
It
So
could be quite useful.
Yeah.
Like, I definitely prefer prototyping. You know, like, it's just create the scene, create the interactivity, create something kind of pretty vanilla, see whether it works, and whether people are going to enjoy it, and then you can fill in the bumps with nice
absolutely
graphics.
I think it helps too, because if you're putting something together, and going back to what I was saying before, if you don't have skills in a certain area, this really helps, because it helps you, I think, in your mind put together what it might look like. And you don't want to go and ask someone, you don't want to pay someone to make a bench if 2 days later you realise, oh, that wasn't the right thing for my scene. So at least you can put something in there and you get a bit of a feel for your scene. Yeah, do. And then you go, okay, no, actually that should probably be a couch or something. But yeah, it's very, very handy, more handy than I sometimes realise. So, but that's fully available, it's just free in Windows. So, yeah, essentially that's it for this afternoon. But hopefully it was interesting. Hopefully taking you from never used Unity or only a little bit till getting in there and seeing how you might augment your own skills that you might currently have, or how you could get hold of other skills or different things that help you put a scene together. Any questions?
I've got a question for Jackie. You mentioned 3ds and Maya.
Yep.
Have you come across SketchUp and Revit, and what's your opinion of those two?
I haven't got experience with either, but I know they're more obviously architectural, interior design kind of thing. I mean, as long as, if it's a software you're comfortable in and it can produce the right format, it really doesn't matter. It's, like I said, I haven't done it before because I'm more of an animation 3D modeler rather than interior and architecture. But yeah, I've definitely seen stuff come out of that.
And if you compare, say, Maya with 3ds, which scenarios would you use what software? So,
funny thing is, I actually use a Mac at nsquared, so I can't actually use 3ds Max. But I'm going to start using it soon. But I know they have pretty similar capabilities. We were talking about this the other day. The big difference. Honestly, I think they're pretty much the same. I've heard 3ds Max has a little bit more capability. It's just, obviously compatibility issues that we have, so I use Mac. 3ds Max is only Windows.
Question for you. Is there a reason that you prefer Unity over Unreal Engine, or did you kind of...
It's interesting. I've used both. I would say I'm a Unity man. I very much find it's... I like how it works, I think, and the biggest thing I have against Unreal, whilst it's very, very... that you can create something very nice looking very quickly, but I don't like that it's set up to use blueprinting from day one. Like, you step in there. I know I put together a C++ application with it, and I found the whole way through I was fighting with it because it kept wanting to do blueprints instead of C++. And I don't know, as much as they offer C++, it's really not, that's not what their focus is. And I'd say eventually they'll probably try to fade out well, I don't know, maybe they'll always have that aspect there you can add to your blueprints via C++, but they want the visual scripting, I think, to be a thing. And I suppose it works for some people, and some people really love it. So I wouldn't say don't use it, but I find Unity's very good in that it gives you sort of that a very open component-based workflow, whilst making it easy to use things which I'm not so familiar with. So even being able to animate in Unity was amazing. Like, I don't know anything about animating in an actual program, but I can put together some reasonably complex animations in Unity just with its user interface. Get proper sine and cos rotations or actual curves going. So yeah, it's amazing. But I wouldn't say don't use Unreal. Like if you like Unreal, definitely you can get. As I said, I think there's a big thing with Unity. People say Unity's got a look and feel. You can tell if something's been made in Unity, but I also feel like you can do a lot to change that look and feel. You've got a lot of control over your lighting. You have a lot of control over your materials and your textures and what you put in, and the post-processing that happens, especially with the new render pipeline stuff that Unity's been working on. So I feel like you don't have it straight away, but you can work towards the same level of quality. Unity's released a whole bunch of different videos showing what it's capable of.
Yeah.
It's an interesting kind of thing.
In MR, that becomes even more important though, because like, everything's switched on to max to start with Unreal.
Yes.
Whereas Unity, you're starting from a blank canvas. And so if you're trying to hit those frame rates, like your 60 or 90 frames per second, then Unity, you know what you switched on to get there. Like, and so if you're above that frame rate, you know what you switched on, so you can go and switch it off. Whereas Unreal, it's like everything's switched on, all the graphics are set up to start with. So it's much harder to go down when you don't, you haven't got an understanding what you added.
So allow you to build once and publish to different platforms or insets, or have you got to build each time separately?
Very handy with Unity, or at least my experience with Unity. It's very multi-platform. So even putting together a mixed reality scene, which is a UWP project, you can still export that to Mac or Android, depending on what you're doing with it. Obviously, if it's virtual reality, it's not going to work on your phone, but very much like you could export it to just a PC app, which would then be able to be run by Oculus or Vive. But it opens those other things up too, like if you're making a 2D game, non-mixed reality, sorry, non-immersive game, or application, I shouldn't say game, it's quite easy with Unity, very much just to change platforms, see what it says, because it might give you different errors that need to be just changed depending on how you've put the script together. Yeah. But a lot of the time it's very open and transparent with what you need to change, because this platform doesn't accept certain things. But I think I found Unity really easy with that. So very quickly you could put together a mobile application for either Android or iOS and export to both of them without too much twisting. So yeah, I find it quite easy. Not sure if you guys work with Unreal.
I'd say it's probably, well, I don't work with Unreal. Like I looked at I did some estimates for, I was going to be engaged in an RPG game, maybe 2, 3, might have been more years back. But I looked at the estimates and I thought it was going to take 26 times as long in Unreal as Unity, and sort of left Unreal there. Whereas Unity for me is probably the most cross-platform engine I've used for anything. There are 1 or 2 things like Xamarin Forms, which are not games engines, but they're just for apps, that are as cross-platform. But on the whole, Unity is the closest you come to just coding once. And then you usually like, unless you're using platform-specific features like in-app purchases and sometimes video, then usually you just code once, and then it's a matter of just adding data to the project and exporting to another platform.
So does it have those platform-specific features or functionalities built
Yeah.
within it? You can just have those.
Yeah. Try to bring it back. It's interesting. I found this while I was looking, but yeah, even what's this? It says I had a number here a minute ago, but something like however many they can deploy to. These are all of them. So from PlayStation to Steam and Linux, Mac and Windows stores, different, and Android, and yeah, there's that huge coverage. All free, I think, too. You don't have to pay for any.
These days, yeah, it's just a subscription. You just pay the subscription. It used to be like, I used to pay an enormous amount per platform. Like, I remember paying like about $1.5 grand every few years for my licenses, for one for mobile, one for desktop. But yeah, I think it's all in the subscription now. Maybe a lot of them are. Maybe there may be some deviations. I haven't ordered a different subscription for years. I've got given a free one by Oculus, so.
Okay. So Unity is free. You can use it free. I think Game or Access. You do have to upgrade to.
I forget that it's
highest.
Yeah. It's only when you want to. It's if you're earning over a certain amount, or there are a few features that I don't think you even need. Yeah, like the free. If you're earning under $100,000 per month, per year, then I think you can use the free one, and then just everything is given to you freely up front, and the restrictions are not stuff that you would find yourself needing immediately.
Yeah. Any other questions?
What about just from the AR point of view? Is it still just not HoloLens?
You can use obviously the AR
mobile phones.
Yeah, mobile phones. So they're essentially the major players. I know Magic Leap's releasing their new thing soon. Actually, I'll do a quick Google because I heard some different interesting things with it recently, where they had a press conference but didn't show the device working, which is an interesting thing because it's like this late in the stage of producing it. You'd think that's what they'd they'd be trying to show off the features of it that people want to buy it, or developers get behind it so that they know what's available to do for it. So you got the videos and myself.
Time since I heard this, but did they like a while back? There was like a kind of announcement they were giving out a few headsets, but that is in really aggressive terms. Like people had to keep them in safes when they were not using them or something.
Oh yeah.
It was like.
Yeah, I saw that recently. They released a couple of the dev kits, but then they have to be all locked up.
Kept in a safe whilst not used.
I'm trying to find a recent video. They're all like so long ago for some reason. 5 months. 1 month.
Conceptually, it was just like HoloLens, really, wasn't it?
Yeah. As you can see, the sort of the headset. You just make that screen bigger. It looks smaller to wear, but then I want to put a picture of it. I was sort of looking at the back of it recently. It comes up, it actually doesn't look that comfortable. Like, I didn't think it looked that comfortable. So I thought it would just be the glasses, but this kind of shows it. At the back here, it sort of like sits upwards. So I saw a picture of a lady wearing it recently, and it looked like it was nearly sitting kind of diagonally on her head. So I don't know. Not to say that the HoloLens doesn't have its own intricacies, because I know some people find it heavy, and I don't know. It's like anything. Like if you don't wear things on your face regularly, I know, you don't feel like you're able to wear these things for a whole lot of time. But I guess they're going to try to get them easier and easier to wear and less obtrusive. And I like that they're trying to move towards, this is just hopefully a set of glasses. And I think eventually they'll be able to pull more back because all the processing will be done in the cloud and you won't have to worry about local processing. But then, you know, what do you do with the battery? Or it needs some sort of local storage because it needs to stream information in. So, yeah. So yeah, a few different things that they've got to sort out, but it's getting closer. Something I didn't otherwise like, if you wear glasses, you have to get these specially made for your prescription because you can't wear glasses and this thing over the top. The HoloLens can, which is that's a huge bonus. And I know Microsoft's sort of talking about maybe releasing another HoloLens soon, so we're keeping our eye because it's going to be interesting as to, especially design-wise, they're very tight-lipped about these things and as to what they're going to look like. But with this sort of competition, you'd imagine they're getting smaller and less obtrusive, and you know, it's going to be interesting. Yeah, but I won't show you now. We might do some demos because we don't have too much time left. But have a Google at home if you get a chance to Magic Leap, because it's always worth keeping your eye on different things. And I know I'll eventually want to see what it can do and put it through its paces. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Demo times. Yeah. So we brought the HoloLens along. So we've got Space Planner. Not sure if we've got anything else on there, but I've also got the immersive headset, and we'll have nsquared training on there. So that's the one I was talking about with you'll sort of learn to replace a graphics card in your computer. So very sort of simplified, but I think puts across that you could sit on a plane and learn to do a skill, which would be amazing, I think. So I'll put that together. What do you want to monitor, the HoloLens or the...
Whatever you don't want to monitor.